Hey, everybody. Welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. We have Joe Walsh back with us again. We'll chat with Joe in just a moment. But first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So Joe Walsh is a former Republican congressman from Illinois, elected to Congress in the Tea Party wave of 2010. Following his service in Congress, he became one of the most popular syndicated conservative talk radio hosts in the country. In August of 2019, he became a candidate for president of the United States, waging a Republican primary challenge against Donald Trump. He is the author of Fuck Silence, calling Trump out for the cultish, moronic, authoritarian con man he is. He's currently the director of The Social Contract and the host of the Social Contract with Joe Walsh podcast, and he appears regularly on CNN, MSNOW, News Nation, and the BBC. Joe, welcome back into the back room.
Hey, Andy, no bullshit. I always like getting together with you. I mean that.
Samesies, as the kids say.
And by the way, I think part of it is you and I, like so many people I respect, we started out our relationship just fucking firing at each other.
Yeah.
Obviously, because of where I come from politically, and then we got to know each other.
Yeah. I always say this is going to be Trump's greatest legacy, is that he's unified people who would never... Like, I get Bill Kristol on my podcast all the time. Like, when would I have ever spoken with Bill Kristol? Never. When would Bill Kristol be a Democrat? When would Joe Walsh be a Democrat?
Yeah.
So that for all the craziness and the chaos that Trump delivers every day, that is actually something that's redeeming about him. Not intentionally, though. So let's start off with the big guy. We're a year and a half into his second term. Where do you see his presidency right now? Is he imploding, as many people like myself believe, or has he been effective in achieving his goals, or is he kind of struggling somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, Andy, I don't think he's imploding. I think 18 months in, those of us who thought it was going to be horrible, he's met every one of those expectations. He's everything our founders feared. When he got reelected, he said the fucking chains are off. And from day one, he's going to become a tyrant, a fascist, a dictator, and he's done all of that. Republicans should take a hit big time in November. I don't know how much of a hit they'll take because the Democratic Party brand so sucks. But Trump himself is everything we feared. I think he's losing it up here, and that kind of gives the appearance, I think, to a lot of people that he's imploding.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I try to analyze him, I try to filter out that which he's doing from that which he's saying. And even within what he's saying, I try to separate out noise from actual effective policy. There's just so much noise that comes out of him. I mean, look, he's definitely torn down so many boundaries and crashed through institutions and norms and standards and all that. And a lot of that is just going to take a long time if we can ever get it back. He is chipping away at our democracy, but there is resistance. And, you know, the courts are still serving as an important guardrail. Even on occasion, the Supreme Court is not letting him take over our democracy. I want to ask you, my next question is about your former Republican colleagues. Are you starting to see, I think there's a little bit of pushback, that they're starting to get a little bit bolder when it comes to him. Not a lot, but, you know, something is better than nothing. Where do you see the Republican Congress going?
Man, Andy, you're getting soft in your old age.
I
Oh
know.
my God.
I cry at commercials too.
First off, I appreciate what you say about what he does and what he says. I always have a different view, having been an elected official. I think what you say is what you do. And the fact that we have a president who, as you and I acknowledge every day, lies as he breathes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I've always thought that's Trump's greatest legacy, is the utter destruction of truth. And it's going to be real hard walking that back. I can tell you, Andy, talking to Republicans privately, and there are some who still talk to me privately, they fear November, but they have no choice but to stick with him. I mean, you've got Tom Tillis, who's on his way out the door, senator from North Carolina, and even he's retiring, and even he's going to vote for Todd Blanche.
Right.
It goes to what I was on another show yesterday, and somebody asked me, why, Joe, why do these Republicans fear Trump? You and I've said it before. They don't fear Trump. They fear Trump's hold on the Republican base.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why even you see Republicans who aren't running again, who still want to stay Republicans, they have to bend the knee. The other thing I'd add, Andy, is the number of true believing MAGA crazies who are in the House and the Senate. That's increased every election cycle.
What about the base, though? What about because this was a good segue to my next question, which is the MAGA base itself. Don't you see an erosion there?
Yeah, I see a chipping away, and it's very issue specific. Mm-hmm. We see people like Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of MAGA voices they're pecking at Trump on certain things like the war, the Epstein files. A lot of these big MAGA broadcasters are doing the same. But here's what's important. They're all MAGA. And what they're doing is they're all positioning themselves to be a MAGA voice, the MAGA voice, when Trump finally does leave the scene. When I left Trump, I left MAGA. None of these people will do that. So they're all positioning themselves. But you'll notice, Andy, very few of them take him on full on. Right. Even like Ben Shapiro, they'll go after J.D. Vance or Pete Hegseth for the fucking war. They will not go after Trump for the war. I think it's positioning.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Joe Rogan. You know, a lot of Democrats, I'm not necessarily one of them. I'm very critical of him, but they're like, oh, even Rogan is going against Trump. But then he'll show up at the White House for the UFC thing. So it's like when push comes to shove, it's like, hey, I could be critical of Trump, but I'm still his pal, and I'm still going to hang around him.
Yeah. And even, Andy, Joe Rogan had J.D. Vance on this past week, and Joe Rogan went off on how the 2020 election was stolen. Fuck Joe Rogan. Yeah.
What about the MAGA at home? Because we do have this incredibly critical election coming up in 3 months. I've got to assume that, like you say, between Epstein, between the war, between affordability, all the issues that he ran on, you know, that there's a percentage, perhaps a healthy percentage of them that have peeled off. What do you
Amen.
think?
Yeah. I'm in southern Arizona right now. I've spent the summer, Andy, traveling the country, just talking to regular Americans across the spectrum. And I can tell you, talking to MAGA folk, good, decent MAGA folk, they're generally not at all happy. More importantly, they're not at all motivated to vote. Mm-hmm. Because I come from MAGA, I've engaged with these folks for 8 years. I've not seen it this bad among regular MAGA people out there. And Trump and forget about Trump, he's an idiot. Republican elected officials know that, which is why, right, we're seeing Republicans talk about the communists are coming. Yeah. Oh, transgenders, illegals are voting everywhere. So
you know who I'm most afraid of? Oh. Transgender communists.
Transgender communists who are
in this country
illegally, and they're voting everywhere. Andy, that's a great tweet. I think I'll tweet that out. But so, and look, my hands aren't clean. When I was a right-wing talker, I used to engage in some of this, the culture war bullshit, because you know it gets your people wound up. So they're doing that now. They're going to do the greatest hits of the culture war bullshit because they got nothing to run on. You said it, the war, affordability. They're in a lot of trouble. I don't think it will work. They're trying to get their people out to vote.
Yeah, well, I want to read you a couple of things on this democratic socialist communist thing, which is a narrative that's not just with Trump and the Republicans, but you know the media is also running with this too, because it's a sexy conversation.
Well, there's a wee little bit of truth there, but continue.
Yeah. So, okay, so you got Trump himself. He says, quote, the communists, they want to destroy our country. Mike Johnson says, we're fighting communism on our own shores. Steve Scalise said yesterday, the Bolshevik takeover of the Democratic Party that is in full swing. And that, quote, communism is on the ballot this November against freedom. So this is kind of, Rich, coming from a party that has fully embraced fascism and is raping democracy. But I think you're right. I think this time, not all of them, but enough, because you and I both know that elections are won and lost on the margins these days. You get 5 or 10% of MAGA to say, you know what, the transgender, the MS-13 gangs, the caravans, now the communists, like enough. I'm paying over $4 a gallon at the gas pump. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford health care. There's a housing crisis. I can't afford to live where I need to live. Stop with this communist bullshit, because, first of all, none of these people who have won in Democratic primaries are communists,
Yes.
and Democratic socialists. I want to ask you, because you've been around a long time, so like you said, you were part of this cultural war landscape. Like, by and large, they're just talking populist stuff, which is resonating across party lines. And so the notion that it's now communism, I wish somebody at a press conference or a gaggle or whatever would just literally say to Trump, sir, what is communism?
He couldn't answer.
Can you define what a communist is? Could you imagine what that answer would be?
He couldn't answer. Andy, I generally agree with you, but so I don't think most of the culture war bullshit will work this election cycle for them. But the communist thing, all bullshit, but it's new. And
Is it new? They've been spewing this communist bullshit since the 50s.
Yes.
The Red Scare. Here we are in 2026. They're still fear mongering about communists. Come on.
But the average voter hasn't heard it for a long time. And when, admittedly, the Democratic Party, when a few, out there whack jobs won in New York City and Jersey and Colorado this past month, it did give Republicans, they believe, some ammunition. Again, the few Republicans I talked to privately, they said, Joe, it's a fucking gift. We're in trouble. My God, this is manna from heaven. So they're going to run with it. And look, again, I used to be very good at this. You know this, Andy. One fucking crazy Democrat says, abolish all prisons. And within 24 hours, Fox News and Republicans tagged the whole party with it.
Yep.
And that kind of thing really works. It's why defund the police was so effective for Republicans. Democrats should win huge in November. The only thing that would prevent that is Democrats doing and saying stupid shit, and Andy, allowing Republicans to tag them. Again, I campaigned my ass off for Kamala Harris in 24. One of her biggest problem was Trump tagged her with transgender. She's for they, then I'm for you, and blah, blah, blah. And the Harris campaign never fucking responded.
Yeah.
If I can teach my new party one fucking thing, it's to engage on this culture war bullshit. Don't think you're some elite snob and you don't need to. Get your fucking hands dirty and fight back on this culture war bullshit, or it will stick.
Well, here's what I think is the effective counter narrative, because it is reality. You do have some Democrat socialists winning in places, but they're winning in safe districts. And the ones that have been talked about the most are the ones in New York City. New York City doesn't matter. The party needs to continue doing what it's doing and shine a light on people like Ben McAdams in Utah's 1st District, Nancy LaCour, South Carolina 1st District, Kate Conley up in New York 17. Because not only are these moderates, not only are they combat vets, when you look at Abigail Spanberger and Maggie Sherrill from last year, again, moderates, either combat veterans or former intelligence officials. These are not progressives, and they certainly aren't socialists, and they're definitely not communists. But here's the thing that's really interesting. They are the ones that could flip the House. The ones who have won in New York, the Democratic Socialists, there's no flipping going on. It's going to be a safe Democrat seat. So if you just peel away this onion and you look at really what's happening, Democrats are making serious inroads in red or purple districts across the country, and those are the races that matter. So we can't let that narrative of, oh, the communists, the Bolsheviks. I mean, you mentioned Kamala Harris. Democrats were skewered in the last election because we tried to get the electorate to understand autocracy, right? Why are you telling them about democracy when all they care about is affordability? Okay, good luck explaining Bolshevism to them, right?
Andy, you're right. Look, and right. Why the fuck am I a Democrat? Because to me, it takes a big tent, right? A tent big enough for Zoran Mamdani and Joe Walsh, period.
Right, exactly.
You're right. But if Democrats don't punch back on this shit, they're going to get tagged. Two other things. This Senate race in Michigan's a big deal because Abdul Said is a Democratic socialist. So if he becomes the Democratic nominee statewide in Michigan, well, that's not a blue district or a blue state. That's a battleground state. And we'll see how that pans out. And maybe he'll still win and become a United States Senator. Last thing I'll say, Andy, is this issue of Israel is a real driving force in the party. I am off the charts pro-Israel. I don't belong in the Democratic Party just for my take on Israel, but it's becoming a litmus test in the party. Yeah. And the party's really got to wrestle with that.
Yeah, look, if I said to you 4 years ago, right, let's look at Dan Goldman. If I said to you 4 years ago, an Upper West Side incumbent pro-Israel Jewish congressman is going to lose his seat in 4 years.
Pretty progressive guy.
For being pro-Israel, you would have said to me, you are out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
So you're 100% right. And when I have candidates on my podcast, like Kate Connolly and others, I always say to them, how are you handling the Israel-Gaza issue? Because this is, well, it's just like, I can't support everything that's happening. Just like I don't like Trump and the U.S. government right now. I don't like Netanyahu and the Israeli government, but I'm pro-Israel. Israel has a right to exist, and we got to work out a two-state solution and make peace there somehow. Like, you got to straddle that fence because the irrational thinking is on both sides. You know, there was a lot of single-issue Jewish voters, you know, my fellow Jews, who went out and voted for Trump because they thought he was going to be so great for Israel. That's kind of backfired. You know, we talk about Michigan. I think Al Sayed is going to win, but maybe it's going to be because the Arab community, like in Dearborn and elsewhere, who abandoned the Democrats in the last couple of elections, maybe they're going to return now.
Indy, I think it's almost as crystal clear as this, and I've gotten into it with folks you and I know, Mehdi Hassan, Wajahat Ali, on that one-word genocide.
Yeah.
I do not believe, and I've never believed Israel is committing genocide, period. That's just my opinion. And when I express that opinion, the genocide word, if you don't believe Israel is committing genocide, you're kind of kicked off the island.
Well, that's what happened to Goldman.
Like Goldman. And I think we're at a point where the Democratic nominee in 28 might have to be someone who says Israel's committing genocide. And boy, that's a...
Yeah, I think the smart ones are going to say, I'm not going to get hung up on words. I will tell you that.
You can't get away with that, Andy.
For a lot of people, especially Jews, the word genocide has very special meaning. That's a plan to systematically annihilate a certain part of our society. I don't believe even a monster like Netanyahu has that as the foundation of his plan. I think there are other monstrous things he's doing, and way too many people have died. Way too many people have died. And I cannot, and I will not support what Israel's doing. I did for a long time. I'm not going to say it's genocide because that word means something to me.
I think, Andy, to put a bow on all of this, and I've said repeatedly, I want the Democratic Party to have a big public brawl about who the fuck they are and what they stand for. I think it should be a big public fight that they have, that it's televised every night. So the whole country can see the Democratic Party fucking trying to figure it out and work it out. But I think that fight, that big public fight, should come after the midterms. Like right now, the whole focus should be Trump sucks. This is what Trump's done. End of story. And these fights on Israel and everything else, socialist, everything else, have after the midterms.
Yes, because there's going to be no points scored for anybody on November 4th who goes, yeah, we got 2 more years of a Republican Congress, but genocide.
Bingo.
That's in the vernacular right now, the American vernacular. I mean, you got to be crazy. And it's like any other issue. It's like, yeah, I support all kinds of things, but I don't want to run on it this November because democracy is hanging on by a thread because we have a dictator wannabe president in the White House. So let's pick and choose our battles wisely, folks, right? You can't fight every battle. By the way,
Andy, you said it perfectly. Any fucking Trump supporter or former Republican who tells me the communists are coming when they fucking embrace a current fascist in the White House, get lost.
Well, everything with them is always, and him, always confession or projection. They're masterful. I mean, somewhere Sigmund Freud is sitting there going, my goodness, you guys are fucking amazing with this.
But I want Democrats to talk that way. I want Democrats to fire back like that.
Well, some of them are. And I wanted to ask you if you caught this Hegseth hearing yesterday. You look at someone like John Ossoff. First of all, this guy deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for not getting up, jumping over the table, and trying to strangle whoever he's interrogating at a hearing. Because this guy is so measured, so calm, cool, and collective, but his words are like a machete. And he took down Hegseth yesterday. It was eviscerating. And there are people like him who are doing, I think, a pretty good job at showing some balls. Not enough, and maybe not nearly enough. But there's something happening out there. People are getting emboldened, I think, on both sides of the aisle. Trump is a lame duck. Let's face it, he's a lame duck. He's not going to be president in 28. That's the noise. That's a great example of when you see him wearing a hat that says Trump 28, he's a moron. He's not going anywhere in 28 except to Mar-a-Lago. But people are sensing that he's weak. He's a wounded animal. And even you know that people in his party, they know what he is. They know what he's capable of, and they hate him as much as we do. But like you said earlier, they're terrified of him, and they're terrified of the base. And so they have to pretend, all of them, Mike Lawler, even the most pathetic, weak, feckless cowards know exactly who Trump is. So it's just a matter of time. But I think you're starting to see people get a little bit more emboldened on both sides.
I think we are seeing Democrats begin to meet the moment. I come from the Tea Party. Finally, the Democratic Party's having their Tea Party moment. And what it is, it's just a populist anti-establishment moment. They're rightly pissed off at their own party establishment. Now, their populism is coming from the left, which is fine, as long as it's energetic. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, let's make something crystal clear. When Democrats are espousing what they believe are socialistic types of policies, at the root of it, they want to do things for the American people. They want universal health care. They want universal pre-K. They want affordability crisis to be solved. They want affordable housing. They want vaccines. I could go on and on and on. None of it is like, hey, let's fuck over the American people. That's what the Republicans do. So this move towards fascism, it's about tearing down the institution of democracy. It's about grifting, which I want to get your thoughts on in a minute, and corruption. It's about self-serving bullshit. It's about protecting pedophiles. It's about the worst shit humanly possible. None of anything Trump and the Republican Party is doing right now is to help the average working and middle class American. But I will take the craziest radical Democrat socialist any day over these Republican fascists.
I two quick responses. I agree. It's and I talked about this yesterday. What's worse, being wicked or being wrong? Right. What today's Republican Party is just flat out wicked, fascist. Mm-hmm. You're right. I think Democrats, my own opinion, are wrong on a lot of policy, but as you said, it's all well-intentioned.
That's right.
It's all well-intentioned.
Income equality. What's wrong with that, right?
And then we argue about how to get it. But but you're right. It's well-intentioned. I will just keep an eye on, my good friend. when the party nominates people who say capitalism is evil and America caused 9/11 and all this other shit, that's the kind of shit that other Democrats need to speak out against.
Yeah. Look, there's never going to be a scenario where like everyone in your party is
No,
just saying the right thing. There's going to
no,
be, in that big tent, there's always going to be somebody screaming craziness, right? I just don't think that's the bulk of the party right now. The facts don't bear that out. We're
it's
winning.
not.
The move towards moderate candidates is real. It's factual. And Democrats have won virtually every election since the fall of 2024. Every special election, even the few that we've lost, we've dramatically cut the margins, which is terrifying Republicans.
Andy, you're totally right. You're totally, totally right. Every election since Trump was sworn in, Democrats have won. That should continue in the midterms. The context is the vast majority of the American people despise both parties.
Yeah.
Right now, they are voting against Trump, period. So they're voting Democrat.
Yeah. And if, like you said, and if Trump's not on that ballot, they might just sit home because they're disaffected, because of the lies and the betrayal. But don't you think, because Trump has swung the pendulum so far to the right, simple physics, it has to swing far to the left before it eventually gets to a place where Democrats feel like the Democratic Party is my party, and disaffected Republicans start to again feel like the Republican Party is my party again. And maybe that's not a bad thing. And that's, I think, what we're witnessing in this country right now is that there are people who are not necessarily looking at one party or another. They're not looking at red or blue. They're not thinking of right or left. They're thinking right and wrong. They're thinking everyone should have health care as a right. Everyone should be able to afford food and gas. Everyone should be able to send their kids to a quality public school. The CEOs shouldn't be making way more money over the last 30, 40 years than the average worker.
You are such a Democrat. Listen to you. You are such a lefty. You are such a lefty.
Of course I am. But what I'm saying is, I think the majority of Americans want the same thing now, and they're telling the politicians, don't put me in a bucket. Put me in the bucket that wants to be able to afford my groceries. That's the bucket I want to be in.
Right. You're right, Andy, about the pendulum. But understand, just take like an issue like immigration. Democrats under Biden swung the immigration enforcement pendulum so far to the left that it got Trump elected. And now Trump has swung it so far to the right to an ugly, un-American place, what's happening on our streets, that it's going to be pulled back. I just don't want Democrats to pull it all the way back to the left again.
Yeah.
Pull immigration somewhere right here in the middle.
Yeah. Well, speaking of immigration, tell me about Paxos.
Oh, you know what? You and I are in this world where we're both great guys. And it's so tempting to just fucking yell about Trump every day. It's so easy. And Andy, a lot of people make really good money yelling about Trump every day. I don't want to do that. That bores me. So I like to do things. Mm-hmm. So we created this tool 4 months ago, a Know Your Rights tool that anybody can use on any phone, any device. And all it is it just gives you, it's AI generated. It gives you the absolute best information on how to legally, lawfully, and practically fight back against ICE when you encounter them, when they knock on your door, when they pull you over. And we're spending every month now trying to get this tool into the hands of more and more immigrants and citizens who need it because ICE is ratcheting shit up again.
Yeah. And is there a growing user base for the app?
Oh God, yeah. And the stories we're getting every month. The website is Paxos, PAXIS.app, APP. And it's free of charge. So check it out and give it to anybody you know. We're distributing it to people in need all over the country. And what a terrible thing to say, Andy. This Know Your Rights tool can save lives.
Sure.
What a horrible thing to have to say, though, but that's the America we're living in right now, where ICE is shooting and killing people almost every week.
Yeah. Well, the America we're living in also is one where corruption and grifting is at levels that I don't care who you are, you couldn't imagine what's happening out in the open right now. What's your take on what you're seeing?
It's almost like Andy, it's almost like Trump is don't take this wrong. It's almost like a god put Trump in power just to fucking wake up the American people. Like corruption is bad. Using your public office to enrich yourself personally is really bad. So I'm going to put the worst, most extreme case of that in front of the American people to hopefully wake them up. And that's what it is. And Trump does it in the open like we've never seen, at a level we've never seen. And Andy, you know, and I know, he doesn't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't give a fuck because
there's no accountability.
He doesn't believe his voters give a fuck. But Andy, he doesn't give a fuck because he knows we don't have a Congress who will do anything about it.
What goes through your brain when you see a MAGA person interviewed and they go, that man donates his salary every year and look what he gave up. He's a billionaire running this incredible business. Look what he gave up to serve. When you hear that, what goes through your mind? Because I know what goes through my mind.
I know. But Andy, this is why you shouldn't be talking to them. I should.
That's for sure.
I had that very conversation 5 days ago in a coffee shop with a hardcore MAGA dude.
What do you say to them?
All I did, Andy, because he said almost that exact thing. And so for 15 to 20 minutes, I just walked him through the numbers of what Trump has done and made in the first 18 months.
Where do you get those numbers from, Joe? Fake news CNN?
No, I showed him where I got the numbers from. I even showed how Fox News is reporting some of this data. And Andy, I got to tell you, after the end of that, at the end of that conversation, even he was, well, fuck, I didn't know it was that much. Well, all right. That's like a little too much. Well, a little bit. It's
really interesting what you're saying, because I do believe that one day, just like a jilted lover, a good chunk of MAGA is going to be heartbroken when they find out the extent of his lying and betrayals, because that's all he's doing. Because they're brainwashed. They're in a cult. But most cults end, and the people get out of the cult. You know, Scientology and Unification Church are the only two cults that have withstood time. And it's because they had two brilliant leaders with a real vision. That's not Trump. His cult is comprised of something else. It's a smorgasbord of a lot of other things, maybe with racism at the root of it all. That's the glue that ties them all together.
I think you're right with a lot of caveats, but I can just tell you, Andy, as someone who has hundreds of these conversations every week, when I do get a MAGA person to wake up and finally walk away from Trump, and it happens every week, not thousands, but a few, it's always, Andy, when I put nuggets of truth in front of them, and the biggest, the most vivid way the light bulb finally goes off is what you said. When they finally realize they've been lied to this whole time.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's a lot of psychologists who will tell you that for people in MAGA, the reason they're still with him is because just at the root of it all, psychologically, it is so much easier to double and triple and quadruple down than to admit you were taken for a fucking ride by someone who treated you like a moron, manipulated you, and you allowed it to happen. So many of them are just so predisposed to not allow truth and facts and reality to enter their brain.
You're right. I'll just add this though, Andy. The difference is it's almost less him and what he stands for them. Like a lot of MAGA people tell me all the time, Joe, I know he's a bad guy, but God often picks bad guys because he's saving America. They all feel like all of this shit we're talking about is a threat to America. And Trump may come and go, and somebody else then's going to have to pick up that mantle. That's their underlying belief.
Yeah, I mean, it is terrifying, but it took me a while to finally accept that that's what they felt about J6.
Yeah.
it's I originally thought, like a lot of people, like these are just animals. They're corrupt criminals that are, looking to storm the Capitol and steal shit. And then I got to the place of like, no, they think they're the patriots for the reason
Yes.
you just said.
Yeah.
They think they're the ones that were defending democracy. That's even more terrifying than 1,500 criminals storming the Capitol just because they're criminals. I mean, that's
Right.
a much bigger problem because we know that there's a lot more of those people that didn't go to Washington that day who
Yeah.
believe the exact same thing. You tweeted something. I want to ask you about Bill Maher, and I'm going to read it because
Fuck Bill Maher.
I love it. Bill Maher recently came out and said that, because of Democrats and the way the direction the party is going in, I might have to vote for J.D. Vance, which is just fucking crazy. But you tweeted, quote, I always thought of Bill Maher as kind of a jerk, but an honest jerk, and a jerk who truly valued individual freedom. But he's so fucking disingenuous here. He continues to rip only Democrats, constantly calling out their lurch to socialism, while at the same time continuing to constantly give a total pass to and suck up to the current fascists / communists in the White House. It's so dishonest and weird. Bravo to you, my friend, but I guess maybe just tell us you're a rich, entitled, privileged, tone-deaf fool without actually telling us. Because, like, what a beautiful perch to be able to sit in and sit there and spew that bullshit. Like, because Democrats are electing a few socialists, he's going to vote for someone who literally said his future boss is America's Hitler, and now I'm defending America's Hitler. Like, that's okay? What is happening with Bill Maher? He used to be a decent guy.
I used to go on his show a bunch. He's never been a good guy. I used to go on his show a bunch. Andy, it's almost like Trump's paying him off. It's so weird because Bill Maher has always been a small L libertarian. Let me smoke my pot, sleep with who I want, make my money, government stay out of my life. That's what Bill Maher always presented himself as. That's a lot of what I am. And yet, he's fucking sucking up to a fascist. To me, he symbolizes all these people who are ripping potential socialists and ignoring the current fascist. It's so disingenuous of him. And when he went and had a private dinner with Trump, and he loves to use that as, oh my God, oh, here come the Trump haters. We got to sit down with everybody. Bullshit. You never sit down with Trump privately. You only sit down with Trump if there's a fucking camera on him because he's going to lie to you every word he says. And I always thought Bill Maher was a smart guy. Bill Maher didn't know that. Trump used him. Something weird has happened, Andy, where Bill Maher has like sold out to Trump. And
well, he's like the tech bros. He's like the broligarchs. Zuckerberg, all those guys. They are so seduced by the access.
Okay.
Once you walk through that White House door, all of a sudden everything changes. You are now in the White House. You're sitting with the president. And I think Bill Maher has forgotten what he's railed against for years.
Thank you.
And it's just now like, well, I had dinner with Trump. But
Yes.
You had dinner with Trump. That's the fucking problem. You had dinner with Trump. He doesn't see it that way.
Like you and I would sit down with damn near anybody and have a conversation.
Sure.
But if I sat down with Trump to have a conversation, Andy, and I told Bill Maher this, there'd be a camera rolling because you can't trust him in private. I would ask Donald Trump one question from the start. Who won the 2020 election? Yeah. And when he lied to me, I wouldn't move beyond that question until he told me the truth. And if he couldn't tell me the truth, I'd walk up and leave. I'd walk out and leave. Bill Maher just did everything the opposite of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Like when you're uber wealthy and you are not affected, he's not affected in the same way the average American is, and he can afford to literally go have dinner and be seduced by the access and the power, and he gets to talk about it, and then he gets to play the victim. The mail I get, the criticisms against me, blah blah blah. You went down and had dinner with a fascist, and you came home and were defending the fascist.
It's just last thing
criticized.
Andy, it's just like you and I know so many people who sold out to Trump. Again, Maher's always been an ass, but I've always thought kind of a principled ass. I
Yes.
never thought he'd sell out to this.
Yeah, look, nobody's perfect, and I've never agreed with everything Bill Maher stood for, but for the most part, he would espouse the same
Yeah.
views as
Yeah.
I did. In our final minutes, I want to try to have like a fairly quick lightning round because there's so many things I just want to get a quick thought on with you that are happening, and it's there's never enough time to discuss all of them. But so the hearings last week with Todd Blanche and Jay Clayton, why can't Republicans answer the simple question you just asked? Who won? And give an answer of who won, not who was certified, who eventually moved into the Oval Office, but who won? What's the simple answer to that?
Biden won. The simple answer, Andy, is Donald Trump has turned my entire former party into a party of sore losers and election deniers. It's just so sad.
Yeah. Well, speaking of election deniers, there was a primary in Arizona yesterday. Election denier Andy Biggs won the GOP nomination for governor. Election denier Alexander Culliton won his nomination for Secretary of State. Sex scandal plagued Trump-endorsed former Sheriff Mark Lamb won his House nomination. What did you make of what happened in Arizona yesterday? Does it give you more pause?
Easy, Andy. Same old story. Trumpism has moved beyond Trump. It is a MAGA party. The Republican Party's a MAGA party, plain and simple, and it ain't changing.
Yeah. What do you think of Darlene Graham in South Carolina and her decision now to not just fill her brother's seat temporarily, but to actually be the nominee in November, and that Trump has endorsed her for November, and that MAGA apparently is screaming birthright senatorship, which I love. Whoever made that up is a genius.
I don't know the first thing about her. She's going to have to win a competitive election, and Trump will end up endorsing another candidate or two if she looks like she's not going to win.
What do you think's happening up in Maine? Troy Jackson, is he going to beat Susan Collins?
Maine Democrats are in a much better position now. I'll leave it at that to beat. I don't know a lot about him, but he's not Plattner, which is a good thing. So they have a much better chance now of beating Susan Collins.
Mm-hmm. Mitch McConnell, weekend at Bernie's.
It's just nothing pisses me off more than this. My God. And maybe, Andy, it's because I'm a former representative. You have to be transparent about your health. Your constituents deserve representation. This is so fucking wrong. And shame on Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. He came out 2 days ago and said, this is really concerning. Fuck that. It's wrong. If I'm oh my God, Andy, if I were the governor of Kentucky a month ago, I would have demanded to see him. And if I wasn't allowed to see Mitch McConnell, I'd have appointed another senator from the jump.
Yeah, Republicans lost their fucking minds when Biden's SecDef Lloyd Austin was in the hospital for 3 days and didn't say where he was. Now this is 6 weeks, and we don't even know if he's dead or not.
But Andy, the same party, right? You had that Republican congressman in New York who just disappeared for 4 months.
Yeah. Okay, the reflecting pool. How insane is this Vandals story?
Here's what it is. So, somebody was indicted for touching the reflecting pool, and he's going to trial. He's facing trial.
An Olympian, September. Served his country in the Olympics.
And the guy who was indicted for trying to overthrow an American election will never face trial. That's how fucked up we are.
I don't care who you are. If you believe this story, there's truly, you need to check yourself into a hospital.
The same people who believe the election was stolen, the same people who believe Haitian migrants are eating cats and dogs.
You're getting logical on me again.
But, Andy, they don't believe his lies about the economy because they live the economy.
Epstein, are we ever going to get accountability and justice for these survivors?
No, not as long as this guy's in the White House. Nope.
Yeah. Tariffs. I thought the Supreme Court said no more tariffs.
I honestly don't understand this. I thought the Supreme Court said tariffs are unconstitutional, and he's still doing this shit. So more lawsuits.
There's a loophole that says if you can show that the rest of the world is playing unfairly, you can, as president, tariff countries at will. And that's what they're doing.
And these latest have already been taken to court.
Yeah. The midterms, are we going to have a free and fair election?
You got to believe we won't. Everybody listening to us, Andy, has to believe that Donald Trump is going to do everything he can to either cancel the midterms or fuck with them. We have to believe that, so that, as our mutual friend Miles Taylor said, we got to make it too big to rig, because he's going to rig them.
Yeah. Last one. Trump last week gave his big primetime address. China, 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 right? Everything was about China. Yesterday, he basically sat and said there's not going to be any pressure or consequences for them, and said, quote, took place a long time ago. And then he said, they do things and we do things. Now he's like cutting them a pass. So was it about the past, or is it, to your point just now, was he just setting foundations for 26?
I think we have to believe it's all about 26. He's laying the predicate, and you and I don't have a time. There are hundreds of things he's doing to fuck with the midterm elections. So this is all about that.
Yeah. I just hope that our party
temporarily, Andy. I don't know for how much longer, but continue.
Okay, Bill Maher. And I just hope they are legally, financially, politically, emotionally, whatever, ready for what's coming, because I think it's coming.
Amen.
Yeah. Joe, always a blast. Come back again soon.
Thanks, Andy.
All righty. Take care. This episode was produced and edited by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud for Radio Free Rhinecliff, with additional editing by Maddie Rosenberg, music by Andrew Hollander, and graphic design by Cricket Langell. And with a special thanks to our sponsor, The Epicurean. Again, thanks for listening. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Backroom with Andy Ostroy YouTube channel, where you can watch full videos of our interviews. See you next time.